Good morning. We're going to talk about study tips and tricks for college students today and ways to help you get organized so you're ready to go for your PTA program. The first thing we're going to talk about is the master of note-taking. That's paying attention to bold-faced words and headings. They're bolded for a reason, which usually means they're important. So make sure you're paying attention to bold-faced words. Rework main ideas to easily understand concepts. What that means is don't rewrite your notes word for word from the instructor, but paraphrase it so it makes sense in your mind, so it's easily understood to you. Be attentive to captions. Making sure that you're reading captions, if there are any, they usually contain very good information, especially for notes, so make sure you're using those. Different modes of note-taking. Whether this be highlighters, sticky notes, index cards, graphic organizers, charts, diagrams, any of the kind, any mixture of the kind, will help you organize your notes into easily understood concepts that will help you with bold-faced words and headings and note-takings all the way around. So like in my planner, I write down everything I have to do for the week, and then I use different colors of highlighters to depend on how long this is going to take me to do. So I like to do it that way. Sometimes I'll use sticky notes for taking notes. Graphic organizers are a great way to organize your thoughts and main ideas and details. Also, when you're note-taking, reduce your ideas to keywords and phrases, meaning taking out all the unnecessary words, but keep it a complete thought. So take out the ands and the thes and this and that. But keep it to where the main idea still makes sense. And then you should be able to recite it without looking at it. So being able to remember the content without always having to look at your paper will help you remember the material you need to remember a whole lot easier. And then make sure you're reviewing it. It's like putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. You may not get all the pieces in one day, so making sure your notes stay organized will help you put those pieces of the puzzle together a whole lot easier. And then using graphic organizers. They help you organize, visualize, and summarize, and it's a great way to store important information on pages. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of graphic organizers, and I really like to use this one when we are talking about notes in the classroom. They're a little bit easier to follow. You can put your main idea or the subject you're covering in the middle, and then your supporting details along the outside, and be able to paraphrase those so they make sense to you. The one on the right I like to use when you're getting notes out of a book. Usually the main idea is clearly identified. That is your bold heading or your subject line. And then what details did you find important through the book? So those are great examples to use when you're trying to find different details. Also, another great way to master note-taking is record yourself. So if you are at home or you're in the car or in the shower, you can listen to that recording, and it helps you process it differently than just reading it. And then if you're struggling taking notes at any point in your semester, go have a one-on-one conversation with your instructor. See if you can record them during their lectures so you can sit there and take your notes better at home and fill in any gaps you may be having problems with. Another great way to study are study groups. They also help you improve your time management skills. So in order for you to teach it to somebody else, you have to have a better understanding than just the surface definitions. So really, to understand the material, you want to be able to get into the study groups with your classmates and teach it to one another. That way, you're helping somebody who may be struggling in class, but you're also getting the benefits of it. On the flip side, to help you get a deeper understanding and make sense more of the material you're being given, rather than just knowing the surface definitions of it. Make sure you plan ahead on those study groups. Don't throw a study group together at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Try to plan at least a day in advance, if not 2 days in advance, to give your classmates time to work their schedules around. Make sure you're scheduling time to study every single day. So whether it's 30 minutes after supper, we're going to sit down and study for a little bit. Or as soon as class is done, you take a short break and you get down to studying for an hour. But don't put it off, because it becomes a lot harder to stay on top of your material, as you will cover a lot of material this year, instead of just putting it off and making mountains out of molehills. Don't put off your small tasks. Make a checklist, make a to-do list, be able to check those tasks off one at a time, prioritize them. So figure out which ones have to be done first, and then do them in chronological order. That way you're making sure you're staying on top of your studies. And then dividing tasks into smaller parts also is very beneficial. Make that to-do list again and go in and put, task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, however many tasks it's going to take you to get that large task completed, to help you conquer it better than just being overwhelmed with it. Fix your study environment and make it clean and neat and less distracting. Put the TVs away, put the radios away, making sure you're having a clean environment that is relaxing to you to help you just study and concentrate on, instead of, that one more little laundry I can do, or the one more set of dishes I can do before I study. We call that procrastinating, and procrastinating will be the death of you. So make sure you're not procrastinating and you're staying on top of your studies. Set a timer. Take frequent short study breaks instead of one long break. So instead of one 20-minute break, break it up into 5 or 10-minute breaks. This helps you get up from your workspace a little bit easier. Take a walk, grab a snack, use the restroom. Cold drinks help you stay awake better, so grab a cold drink instead of a coffee. Maybe an iced coffee if that's your thing. And then making sure you're staying hydrated and getting a good night's rest. That will also help your brain process all the material you're being given and the material you're studying. So make sure you're getting good night's rest. Recommended is 6 to 8 hours a night. So we want to try and stay within that. I know some nights are short night sleeps, but especially the day before test, make sure you're getting that 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and you're making sure that you're getting hydrated, you're getting a good meal, all of those sorts of things to help you stay alert and ready for your exams. Some test taking tips I want to go over. These are for the day of the test. So having a test prep ritual, if you are prone to anxiety, tests stress you out, you freak out every time you have a test, no matter how big or how small it is, get into your workspace 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time. Settle in, get your pencils out, get your scratch paper out, if you're allowed to have any, and write those worries down to get them out of your head. This helps you clear your mind for the exam and will actually help you improve your test scores. Just getting those worries out so you're not thinking about it. They're on paper, so they're out of your system. Really do help get those worries out of the way before you start your exam. And then if there's important facts or acronyms or theories that you have to remember, and you're afraid you're going to forget them by the time you get to that test question, as soon as you receive your test or scratch paper, write those important facts down onto your test. That way you can go back and reference them later if you need to, but that way you always have them there at the beginning of your exam so you don't forget them. And then keep an eye out for questions that provide answers or clues to other questions. Even if you can't use it on your test, make a cheat sheet, make a cheat card. This way of compressing your notes helps you effectively study and know what you need to know for that test and what you don't need to know for that test. So that will get you even better. Just condensing them down will help you immensely. And then the day of the exam, make sure you eat a good breakfast. Even if that's getting up 20 minutes earlier, making some eggs, some bacon, some toast, getting a good protein-packed breakfast will help you a lot to remember how to do it. And like I said earlier, get into class early so you can settle in and not feel rushed. Read the directions. I know this sounds silly, but a lot of kids don't read the directions, and it gets them in trouble every time. So make sure you're reading the directions carefully before you start your exam. And before you start answering your questions, look over your entire test. That way there's no surprises, and you know what's expected of you before you begin. Do the easy questions first, then go back to the more difficult ones. If you read the question, you don't know the answer right away, I always say put a question mark off to the side of the question and move on. That way you can come back to it. When you're all done with your test, you can go back and see which questions you had questions on and either go ask your instructor about them or sit down and really figure them out and dig deeper into them as to what you need to do to answer them. Circle keywords in difficult questions. Always making sure that if there's clues or context clues in those questions that you're using them to your benefit. Occasionally stretch and keep your body relaxed. This will help you keep you in test mode. Keep your brain going instead of tensing up and freaking out. And then last but not least, stay positive. Remind yourself you study. You know the material. You've got this. Whatever pump up phrase you like to give yourself. And then just make sure that you did study for that exam and you are ready for it. To go over some true-false questions, look for open and closed words in a question. So sometimes open words are sometimes, often, generally, frequently, ordinarily. Those happen in most true questions. Closed words usually are words in false questions. So never, no, none, always, every, entirely, only. There are exceptions to every rule. And so making sure that you're looking for those open and closed words will help you answer the questions as you're going along. And then remember, you don't get points for being the first one done. So take your time, check off every question, make sure you're going through, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're having a good time during your exam.